everybody. We're the Harmons, and we wanted to talk to you about mine and Miriam's stories. We'll start with mine.
Yep. Go ahead.
So I was born in Provo, Utah, and when I was about 3 years old, my parents moved to Illinois. My mom got into the Navy. She basically had to do stuff in Illinois for a bit. And when I was about 4 or 5, we moved to Boise, Idaho. In Boise, Idaho, we lived there until I was about 14. And then after Boise, Idaho, we moved to St. George, Utah. I went to 8th grade and graduated high school in southern Utah. Went on my mission, came back, went to Dixie State University, met Miriam. We got married and had some kids. Moved here after I graduated, and we were there for a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 years.
In St. George?
In St. George.
We were there. We moved when McKinley was...
2? 1, 2?
Almost 2, and Madison was almost 4. So yeah, we were there for almost 4 years through our marriage. And we moved to here, which is Mesa, Arizona.
Mm-hmm. We've been here 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, about 3 years-ish.
When we moved here, we lived with family for a little bit until I could find a job and get everything squared away for like income, housing, and then we've moved about 2 times while we've been down here, not counting from staying with family. Yeah, so we lived in one place before this, and now we live here.
We have a bad habit of moving places where landlords decide to sell, so we have to move again.
Yeah, it's happened like twice in our whole history of renting.
3 times, I think, actually.
3 times?
Yeah.
3 times in our history of renting. So we stay places till they kick us. Not because we're bad renters, but because they want to sell the place. And we didn't want to buy. So.
Yeah.
And the market's never been good. Ain't that the truth? Yeah. So that's my history in a nutshell. Miriam's going to tell you her history in a nutshell. And then we will maybe ask each other questions that kind of probe a little deeper into our lives.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
I was born in Boise, Idaho. So we have that one thing in common. He lived there for a bit, and I was born there. Honestly, my childhood was a lot of moving around. I lived mostly in Idaho and Utah in a bunch of different towns. And we also lived in some other states as well. I have a younger sister who was born in Kentucky. So there's that. Growing up, my dad...
I bet you can't even remember all the places that you've lived.
Honestly, my childhood was very unstable because we moved every 6 months to a year. And I blocked out most of it because it was very unpleasant.
I'm surprised how stable you are for all of the instability you had in your life.
I ended up in Idaho, Idaho Falls, Idaho for high school. And then I graduated.
Pause. We have the baby. This is Link. We'll just introduce him now because we wanted to record. Yeah, we wanted to record, but we could not get him to sleep. So he just gets to be part of this video.
He's part of the fun tonight. We moved around a lot growing up, mostly Idaho and Utah. And I went to high school in Idaho Falls, Idaho. And my senior year, right before my senior year of high school, my family said they wanted to move to California. And I was like, before my senior year? Yeah. So I found a family friend from our ward actually they had all their kids were grown and out of the house. And so I asked if I could live with them and for my senior year of high school, and they said yes. So I stayed behind while my family moved to California, and they were only there for like 6 months, I think, and then I ended up moving to St. George, Utah. And I'm glad that I didn't go with them because it would have messed up all of my credits, and there's a chance that I couldn't have graduated from high school. Nice.
Good burp, buddy.
Oh shoot!
He'll just be burping off and on throughout this video, so stay tuned.
After I graduated high school, I was planning on just going down and spending the summer with my family, and then going back up to BYU, Idaho, because that's where I applied and got accepted. And after I moved down there. About a month later, I met Sam. And then, like, a month after that, we started dating and hit it off because when you're Mormon, after you meet, you decide to get married, pretty much.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
A lot of
We
Mormons
were
do that.
crazy about each other.
Yeah, so it was like we were dating for almost a month and we decided we wanted to get married. So that was fast.
Wait till you tell them how we met.
We met in our singles ward. Not too exciting,
But I had a motorcycle, and she decides during an activity to just walk up to me and be like, "Hey, can I have a ride on your motorcycle?"
Because
I know that doesn't sound weird at all.
That I needed to ride on a motorcycle.
Oh,
and
yes.
so I asked
it was
him.
a prompting.
A prompting. But yeah, so I asked him for a ride on his motorcycle. He gave me a ride home from the activity, and we talked for almost 2 hours outside my house.
About 2 days later, because I
days
learned
later,
you have to wait a little bit.
He didn't call or text
You
me the day
can't just
after.
jump on it. You'll scare them away. That's what I learned.
Yeah, so he had to wait a day, and then the day after, he invited me to his soccer game, and we hung out, and from then on out, we kind of just hung out every day.
Yeah, she basically couldn't stop following me.
Yeah.
It was every day
and
after that.
he couldn't get enough of this, so.
But yeah, we enjoy each other's company, and yes, very much in the culture to get married super early. Even our bishop discouraged it. He thought that it was all physical, but honestly, from the night that we talked and every day that we spent with each other, we felt like we connected on way more than just the physical level. And so we had that in common. And I think what's proven our love and our relationship more than anything has been how we've continued to have love for each other, even through our faith transition.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't physical. We have a lot in common. We have fun together. We are each other's best friends, have been since we met. It's been great. Like, our marriage is strong, and it's even stronger now leaving the church. And our family is fantastic. We love our kids. So things are going good.
Yeah, it's been really liberating leaving the church. I feel like with the way that you were raised and I was raised, the church caused a lot of turmoil and a lot of cognitive dissonance in our the way we perceived our family, the way we perceived ourselves, and the way we perceived the church. I feel like we put a lot of the horrible things that happened to us growing up on ourselves, and also on like this God that can like take it away. And we didn't just like work through it. You know, we suppressed.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very verbally abusive home.
We have that in common.
I had this really low self-worth due to my mom being a perfectionist, and my mom feeling like nothing I did was good enough or to her level. And that caused a lot of like pain and suffering and turmoil for me, because I felt like I was constantly a screw up, and I felt like I was this horrible person. Needless to say, I tried to like make up for that, but with everything I got involved in. I did a lot of performing, I did a lot of dancing, singing.
He has
Honestly,
a great voice,
I was
by the
pretty
way.
darn good at it.
Yeah, he is good. He's really good at it.
I say was pretty darn good. I mean,
He still is.
I try, but I'm nowhere near where I was when I was like a teenager in choir or even college.
You still have a great voice, though.
I have a lot of talent, I guess, still, but and I'm trying to make parody videos and do content that you'll all enjoy. But the next one coming up is going to be a really cool one. I don't want to give it away, but it's going to be a popular song, and it's going to be a ballad to the church with using a pop song. So it'll be pretty sweet.
Anyways, back to what you were saying about you would use those things to...
Oh, what?
I'm keeping you back on track, like you said. So
I basically beat up on myself and turned to a God that couldn't actually take away any of the heartache and pain. And so I suppressed a lot of the emotions. I felt like my parents could do no wrong, and therefore I didn't blame a lot of the emotional effects that my parents had on me on them. Right? I didn't recognize that. I thought it was my fault.
Yeah, you blamed yourself.
I blamed myself.
Because we're taught that our parents are on this pedestal. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that they can do no wrong.
But as I grew up, I started realizing they're not perfect. But still, like, you honor your parents, right? And you put them on a pedestal.
And
I still love and care for my family, but there were some horrible things that happened in my childhood. I got into it with my mom a lot. Before my mission, I had the cops called on me. It was my mom who was in the wrong. And then after my mission, I had the cops called on me. And instead of like taking care of it domestically like we should have, it didn't get out of hand. I got in trouble because a neighbor called the cops on me because I had gotten locked out of the house going to a soccer game that my mom wasn't letting me get back in the house for and dressed for. So it's just some really challenging things that have happened to me throughout my life, and I wouldn't change it. I am who I am now, but I definitely do not ever want to relive it. With the first instance that I got into it with my mom and the cops were called, so I had a check and I wanted to cash it. And my mom, being OCD, it was a Saturday, she wanted me to get chores done before I could go cash that check. The thing is, I had done some of those chores, and I just hadn't done it to the level that she wanted them done to. And so she basically said, like, no, you can't go until it's to the level I want. And so it was that whole, like, I'm doing my best, and it's just not cutting it for my mom, and she just freaks out, about the whole thing at me. And what ends up ensuing is my brother, he wasn't helpful either. He basically gets involved, and because he had been in school doing some like mechanic work, my brother, he'd always been close to my grandpa on my mom's side. He goes to the vehicle that I was going to take to go to the bank to deposit my check, and he like disconnects the starter or something like that. And I didn't know much about vehicles, so I was like, why isn't it working? But even before that, I believe I was trying to get out there, and my mom, she was grabbing my arm and just not letting me go. And so obviously physically she's getting physical.
Trying to stop you.
Physically trying to stop me. And so all I'm doing, and I'm a strong young kid, right? And my mom's this petite, small woman who is very passionate at that moment. And so my strong, young adolescent hands do the only thing that they could think to do, and that was let go of me, right? So you grab whoever's got a hold of you, and you try to like pull them off, right? So what ends up happening though is I didn't know my own strength. I guess I had put my hands on her arm strong enough to actually leave some sort of mark that the cops who were called saw. And based upon her story of what happened and my story of what happened, and it being Utah, because Utah really big with nothing better to do, but also they really have strong laws against domestic violence and abuse.
Yeah.
End up booking me, and I go to the jail.
So how old were you? Weren't you
I was like
over?
I was just barely 18.
Happy birthday, Sam.
And so I would be tried as an adult, basically. But the whole thing, man. I ended up doing a plea on abeyance. So I had to go see a psychologist, and I had to take some anger management courses.
But you spent the night in jail, right?
And I spent the night in jail, yes, that night.
So, he's been to jail, guys. Don't mess with him.
Yeah, I'm a bad dude.
I'm just kidding. He's a
but
bad
in Mormon
guy.
culture, like, you've been to jail, suddenly you're like this horrible person.
Snap.
But why? You can see, because of my mom's passion, my stubbornness and passion, mixed with this like OCD, mixed with like the cops shouldn't have even been called. It really wasn't like out of hand. Like I wasn't taking my fist and like punching my mom in the face and like she's gonna die, right? Like it wasn't that.
No.
It was literally like I just wanted to go cash my check.
And
like
so,
what? It like turned into that? Like this is still what I'm working through. Like this is so sad.
Yeah.
Like
and
looking
so
back on this, I still am plagued by this.
Parents are never in the wrong, right?
Yeah. So get this, the second time, it's literally the
similar,
same
right?
idea, right? Like you need to do this, and because you're not doing it, she chased me out of the house. This was her plan. I premeditated. I swear it was premeditated. She chased me, literally like she was gonna hit me. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to be a part of that. So she chases me out of the house, and then she locks me out of the house. And this is right before, like 30 minutes before, I'm gonna go do a game.
Soccer game.
A soccer game. Soccer game that Miriam. Similar games, right? Not the same one.
Not the same one.
But similar games that Miriam would watch me go play.
Yeah.
Long story short, I end up opening the garage because I have the garage code, and I try to get in through the garage, and I get really upset. I guess it was just a part of me. Like, I don't like people manipulating me. I don't like people taking advantage of my ignorance, I guess. I didn't think by running out of the house and trying to avoid conflict, it would cause me to get locked out of the house and my mom was going to get her way. Like, this just all was, like, making me really furious. And, like,
Stop.
I'm, like, this really strong return missionary who's really angry. And so, like,
He didn't have the spirit with him.
I didn't have the spirit with me. I start, like, telling my mom through the door, Mom, this is ridiculous. I've got to play my game. I've got to go to my game. And, like, I start, like... I'm obviously probably yelling, right? Because I'm trying to, like, have her hear me through the door.
Yeah.
And so the neighbors start hearing this. And I basically, like, start getting into this irrational mind because I'm so upset. And I start, like, being willing. Things I normally wouldn't do because I'm not, like, worked up, right? But things that you normally wouldn't do, you start being willing to do when you're in an emotional state. I learned these in, like, the classes, but...
the classes you were forced to take, right?
I was forced to take because of my mom and my parents. I'm in this really irrational mind, very emotional, and I'm like, I know how to open the door. You can kick down the door. Like, I know if I kick right next to the...
It's gonna open the door.
Yeah, right next to the... where it's bolted, it could, break open. Not even thinking about the fact that this house, right, Miriam, is not my property. It's my parents'.
Yeah.
Not thinking about the almost $1,000 it's going to cost to fix it. Because this is a nice $500,000 home.
This is a $500,000 home.
So I like...
Don't forget that.
So I like start going, boom, and like kicking at the knob. And then it starts going through my mind, oh, like this could be bad. I probably shouldn't break this, but it was too late. I already kicked it a few times. So damage was done, but I didn't bust it open yet, right?
Yeah, so the cops had been called during this, right?
So during
While
this time, like the
on.
neighbor sees that I'm literally kicking at the garage door and yelling, and so he calls the cops. The cops show up. At this point, my mom opened the door. She opened the door because she didn't want the door to break.
She didn't want the door to, yeah.
Yeah, and I went in, grabbed my stuff, and got changed, and then I booked it toward the game.
But then did the cops come before you left?
The cops stayed at the house until I came home.
Oh, so you came home to cops.
Yeah, I basically was gone for a bit, and then I came back. And
that's a lovely homecoming.
Yeah.
Because his mom couldn't have sent them away. She had to keep them there until he got home.
Yeah, she wanted to get me back.
She couldn't.
She wanted me to go to jail.
She couldn't say, no, this was just a minor
Never mind,
thing.
you guys
like,
can
let
go.
It go. Right, because cops don't have to stay.
She's like, this boy, he is going to get it for what he did. We're going to make sure he pays. Like, this very vindictive, very almost like self-centered, doesn't think of anyone but herself.
Probably also
and I hate to say
think...
that, but like, these are real matters that really happened.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I don't think I've gotten a genuine apology or recompense for any of this.
I've been around it when he has brought it up, and she's just like,
no, you were in the wrong.
You were in the wrong.
I thought we'd gone over this.
I thought we've been past this. I thought we moved on.
No, it's definitely not.
I thought we can let it go and just move on.
It won't be right ever. It was never right ever.
Yeah, no.
And no atonement of Jesus Christ is going to make it better. In this case, I had to do a similar thing. It was like a plea in abeyance and probation. If I do it again, I'm basically going to be... Well, I was in jail for like overnight. No, it was a couple days, I think.
This time it
was a couple days.
Dang.
Whereas last time it was like just overnight. Yeah, they left me there. They didn't even bail me. Like, it hurts to this day. From that point on, it's just never been the same. I harbor a lot of hurt and a lot of pain from these experiences. Put that in tandem with the fact that almost always there was some sort of yelling in the home. Most of the time it was like name calling, just abuse in that way. Like, and this is like yelling top of her lungs type of thing. And it's just, it was never okay. And you should never have to, as a child, grow up in a home where you're being yelled at for like 10 to 20 minutes. It's just not healthy.
So, growing up, what was it like with your parents?
So both my parents were nurses.
Home? Okay, yeah, so what would that
and my dad was always working. Didn't have much time with him. You know, the whole cliche, dad's out with his kid throwing the baseball. That happened very rarely. Some things that, you think any young man would have done with his dad did not happen. Never went golfing, never went hunting.
No.
Didn't really go on a fishing trip. We did some camping here and there as a family. Got a camper van. I didn't even like snowboard or ski until I was like late into my teenage years. For the type of family we were, the income level we were at, both parents being nurses, I didn't really feel like I had as good a childhood as I could have had there not been such a focus on, I guess, keeping up with the Jones.
So you would say that like a lot of your childhood was that kind of thing, like keeping up with the Jones, making sure.
Oh yeah, it was always like the newest cars, or with us it was cars. Like cars were always a big thing, a big focus. I don't want to sound critical of my family. If we're trying to understand me, and if we're trying to understand you as a person, it's so important to leave all of the politeness and being worried what our family might think at the door, and just be completely honest in every way.
You can't be honest, then why talk about it?
Now, I mean, we don't have to focus on our family necessarily, people who aren't us.
Yeah, but this is getting to know us, like our childhood, all that stuff.
Intermingled with gossip. The philosophies of men mingled with scripture.
Okay, so last question, sort of. What important was the church growing up, like in your family? Did you guys go every Sunday? Were you always doing scriptures every night?
I can't think of a Sunday we didn't go to church.
Okay,
we always went to church.
What about like scripture study and prayer and family home meeting? What was that like
While
for you?
My sisters were teenagers and going through their rebellious phase, my parents were just like zealots when it came to scriptures. We would wake up early before the girls went to seminary, and we would be reading them scriptures, and it came to pass in the 4th year of the reign of the judges. Yeah, just like a lot of that.
A lot of that. Okay. So you served a mission, right? Where did you go?
ผมได้ไปที่ประเทศไทย
For those of us who don't speak it.
I did go to Thailand on my mission.
Did you serve the full 2 years? Were you an honorable missionary?
I was an honorable full-time mission, and I was so proud of myself. I always thought like I was so weak when it came to like sexual sin and sexual things. God called me to Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. Like, there's a brothel on every corner, Thailand.
So in a way, it was like a temptation for you with all of your like.
Here's the thing, though. Like, I'm like a germaphobe, and
so it wasn't necessarily
I'm demisexual, and demisexual is like where you have to have some sort of physical, emotional connection before you can have like a physical like sexual relationship. So like that whole thing I think played a big role. I also had this thing where like germs and STDs and all of that, just like I'm a germaphobe in a way. So
I am too.
Miriam and I kissing each other is like, wow, I can't believe we can do that. But like, I guess we've just accepted that if she's sick, I'm gonna get it. If I'm sick, you're gonna get it. I'm not that much of a germaphobe, but when it comes, to like brothels and like women who have been with like who knows how many thousands of people, that just did not sit well with me. That wasn't a temptation at all.
That's kind of safe too, because of all.
I mean, the thought always came like, ooh, what if at night did this? But then I was just like, oh, you know what I mean?
Okay,
that's how I felt.
So I guess it wasn't really a temptation. It was just like because you felt like you.
But then I also felt like God was like, he's a valiant soul. He can handle this.
Oh, okay. I
get
it.
I was like that kind of a high on himself person.
So did you do the traditional like when you went with when you were 19? Because back when he went on his mission,
so they didn't change the age group. It was still 19. There was still very much a strict white handbook, like no digital cameras, no phones, no digital devices. That changed about 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years after my mission.
So you couldn't call your parents whenever
little
you
jealous, and I couldn't call whenever I wanted, or at least once a week.
Now missionaries like
I think it's once a week, right?
Okay, yeah, I think it's something like that. It's like once a week. Now they can,
Crazy.
But when you were on your mission, you could only call on like Mother's Day and Christmas or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Special occasions. I got so drunky the last month of my mission.
Poor Steve.
I remember being in a taxi and the song by Michael Bublé came on. And I wanna go home. Let me go home. It'll all be alright. We'll be home tonight.
That would make you
Let me go home. So there's my voice a little bit, but I wasn't.
That would make you so sad, though, right? Like it made you sad.
And I was in it. I think it was like the last day of my mission. That song was going on in the taxi that we were in.
You're like, oh,
and I was like, I'm going home. I really missed home.
You were homesick.
Didn't really miss my family a ton. I wasn't that kind of a trunky missionary. I was more just like, I want to get back to America. I miss my friends.
Yeah.
I was excited. I was excited to date. I was excited to like
get married,
find that woman and be able to have sex. No, I'm just kidding. No, I wasn't that bad, but like it wasn't like that. It was just I wanted to be home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you.
Hopefully this is entertaining.
So you went when you were 19, got home when you were 21, right? And then we got married when you were 23, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like almost 2 years after he got home, we got married. So
yep.
So that was Sam. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think that helps everyone understand me just a little bit better. Let me be very, very clear. I had the regular, hang-ups growing up that most LDS boys would have. Once I hit puberty, there was that whole really want to have sexual release, that need to masturbate and other things that we now understand to be completely normal for human beings, but yet the church has this purist mentality and it's very discouraged and frowned upon, and kids beat themselves up so hard over those little things that are so natural. So those regular things were just, of course, something I struggled with. Now that I don't see it as a struggle, but I had this thing I'm not going to kiss any girls until after my mission.
Lock my lips.
And I did lock my lips. I was VL, baby.
But that was until after your mission, right?
Yes. And then I was a serial kisser after my mission. Okay, what I was going to get at is I had a testimony. I was a valiant returned missionary, served full 2 years. I want it to be very clear, if any of my family watches this. I had a testimony, and I thought I knew the church was true. And the moment I had that aha that all of the puzzle pieces, all the different aspects of church history and how everything lined up, once I had them all pieced together in that perfect puzzle, connected all the dots, that's when my shelf broke.
And here we are now.
Here we are now. We're ex-Mormon. Papers are turned in, and our records have been removed. Break down your moving and how it had a profound impact on you as far as how you feel about things, like how you hold yourself, just how did that affect you?
Growing up, we moved a lot, and that's because the Spirit was guiding my family to all these different places. My dad, most of the work that he did growing up, he was a painter, not like an artistic painter, but like he painted houses and stuff like that kind of painting. And he also would do other things, like other handy jobs and stuff like that. And so he never had like a job that would keep us in one place. And if he had a job and it didn't work out or something else, we would need to move somewhere else because the Spirit was leading him to another job type thing. So that was pretty much what made us move, honestly. It was my dad being guided by Spirit, and then at moments my mom being guided by the Spirit to take us a bunch of different places. With all the moving around, it made it so that I didn't have a very stable childhood. And Sam asked what led, like how that made me be the way I am. I'm very much an introvert. I have a hard time making friends. I second guess myself a lot in a lot of different things. I don't like being the center of attention. I have a hard time trusting people too, and especially if someone's wronged me, I have a hard time like trusting them again. All of that instability made me who I am today, whether it's good or bad. So
Mostly good.
Thanks.
Like 90% amazing.
Like I said, it was hard for me to make friends, so I really hung on to my siblings. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. I'm the middle child, if that means anything. Part of the reason, kind of what made my dad be who he is now, he had a rough childhood. His birth mother wasn't around, and then his dad got remarried, and the stepmother wasn't very nice to him. And it turns out that like when he was 14, he was like out on the road, and just like he had a rough like upbringing and all that stuff. It made it hard for him to have like a stability, I guess, and so that made it hard on us as children to have that stability because of all of the moving around. It also made my dad very angry. He's very much of a person who holds on to grudges. He has a hard time letting things go.
He projects this feeling of like uncertainty and doubt.
It made it hard growing up. He would just yell a lot. He would get upset with my mom over things, and then he would get upset with us children for just anything and everything. And it made it so much that I always went to my mom for everything. My mom was amazing growing up. She still is the kindest, sweetest, like most amazing person ever. And I've always like wanted to be like her. She was the best example to me growing up. So I always went to her for things and not my dad, because I was scared of him, not gonna lie. I was really scared of him growing up. And half the time, like, I wanted everything he would say to me. I always wanted to speak up for myself, and I always wanted to, like, let him know how I really felt. But I knew if I did that, then he would get so mad at me. And even growing up, especially as we started getting in our teenage years, he would threaten kicking us out. He would threaten kicking me and my sisters out of the house if we ever went against what he had to say, or ever like stood up for ourselves or anything like that. That was pretty much my childhood, like growing up. That's how things were.
Now that you mention that real quick, I remember when we were first married, you had this very like timidness about you. Like, I don't want to cause any waves, or like if I spoke up, you were afraid to speak up over what I had said or what I was wanting.
Did I really?
Yeah,
Did
you
I?
had very much a sense of like
I'm a,
subordinateness. Like, I'm going to
yeah.
hold my tongue, you just to keep the peace and make him happy. And I didn't want to be like your dad. And looking back on that, right?
Well,
I
yeah.
would want you to stand up for yourself and definitely say the things that you need to say. You know.
But yeah, I'm very much a people pleaser, so that's partly why I guess I was like that with Sam. Yeah, so my mom, she, like I said, she was amazing. She was this perfect person. She was always very spiritual. Growing up, she was the one who instigated family prayer, scripture study, family home evening. Like, it was like pulling teeth, sort of, with my dad and us kids, trying to get us all together to do these things. And I swear, every time we tried to have a constructive family home evening, it turned into this huge drama where my dad ended up being upset with my mom, and there was all this bad tension. And that's just, like, that's how it was. It was, like, horrible. And so growing up, I had this idea of how things should be at home. Like, when you go to church and they teach you in primary, and then when I was in Young Women's, they said, like, this is how a home should be. And then I would go home and I'm like, this is not
how it is.
Yeah, it's not how my home is. Like, it wasn't like that. And part of me wished that I had that perfect, like, LDS home, because it
Let's
would
be
have made
honest,
things
though.
easier.
With the way
But
the church is,
no one has that perfect home.
they try to paint it can be, but like in reality,
It's not like that.
almost every family home is like completely dysfunctional because of the broken system that the church teaches.
Yeah.
Like, so many people say like the doctrine is true, but the people aren't. But like,
The
no,
doctrine's not
the
true.
doctrine is very broken. I dare you to compare doctrine with sound, like, psychology and sound principles that are taught in universities. Like, there are so many bad contradictions.
Yeah.
Hating yourself, like, if there isn't a Christ to forgive your sin, there isn't a Christ to like take upon himself your hardship, then like what you're really doing is you're internalizing your pain, and then you're becoming this pressurized bottle that's gonna blow. It's just not healthy.
Okay, so I was talking about my mom. She was the one who always was that example of how to be that spiritual person. I noticed that she prayed a lot. And I guess you're supposed to when you're part of the church, but I would always find her at night, like, on her knees, and sometimes she would fall asleep on her knees. Moms do that. They fall asleep everywhere. I know. On fast Sundays, she would always, like, fast the entire day. And my mom is this short, skinny person, and she always was kind of unhealthy with the way that she would do things, especially like fasting and stuff like that. It seemed like it was normal, but not really. Like, now, as I'm a grown up and I like know everything I know now, it was not healthy the way she did things.
She was starving herself a lot.
Yeah, and so come to find out, my mom was diagnosed with schizophrenia 2 years ago. She is in an assisted living home in Idaho. She is not how she used to be. It's been a little hard because, sorry, I don't want to cry.
No, it's fine.
Anyways,
How do you feel about that?
It's been really hard. Half of the stuff that she did growing up, now I can see, like, it was her schizophrenia. Like, she's had it since I was a kid. And a lot of the, like, churchy stuff and a lot of the revelation and stuff.
Where to move and what to do.
Yeah, like that. A lot of that was based on my mom's mental illness. And so she, like, it's hard now looking back to think that we moved so much because of my mom's mental illness. But I don't blame her, and it's not like she had control of it, and it's not like we all knew what was going on. She's getting the help that she needs, but things just aren't the same. I wish that I had that relationship where I could call my mom and, like, ask her questions and let her know how my days are going. And, like, now that I'm a mom, I wish I really had that motherly figure, but I don't, and it's okay. And I'm happy that my mom's still here, but things are different now, so.
It's hard on you. So it's not okay, and it's okay that things are not okay. You wish you could have a better relationship with her. And how's your relationship with your siblings right now? Like, what's happened since you left the church?
So, since I've left the church, the moment that I told my dad that I no longer believed in the church, I fully regretted because he started losing it. My dad's one of those who's a crazy Mormon. Like, he takes the teachings and makes them extreme.
Yeah.
And he, like, lost it. He started telling me that I'm going to be dealing with the consequences from here on out. I'm not going to have my children for the eternity. He started saying, like, horrible stuff like that.
Enjoy your kids now while you have them.
Yeah. And
just horrible things.
He also was like, he's like, I'm sorry, but, like, you're going to lose your daughters. Like, you're going to lose them to prostitution. Like, that's just the consequences of your actions.
No.
And I was like,
we're going to be teaching our children how to have safe relations, and we're going to teach them the consequences of certain things.
Yeah, it was
like, which a lot of Mormon parents neglect to do, leading to teen pregnancy, not using contraception. Like, you teach the stuff early enough, but not too early, right? And you guide your kids through a prosperous and responsible life. But sorry, that's another tangent.
And that's something that we can get into.
We can do
like
tons of other videos, yeah.
He lost it, said horrible things, and I was like, Dad, that's not okay. Like, I don't appreciate you saying that. Like, I'm still me. I just don't believe this, and I don't believe that anymore. And so I was like, we finally had to get to the point where I was like, Dad, we need to just agree to disagree on this subject and try to just still love each other despite everything. And so
radical acceptance.
Yeah. And so from here on out, that was like almost 4 months ago when I told him. And he just will constantly text me these things saying, like, just radical things about the church, like how much he believes in the prophet and
you won't go astray.
Yeah, and
he can't lead you astray.
I need to come back because I've been through the temple, and if I'm doing this, I'm going to have serious consequences for not being a part of the church and keeping my covenants and all that stuff. Just like seriously, like guilt tripping me. And I always
we've
was
made
respectful.
Such sacred covenants in the temple ceremonies that were created by Joseph Smith just so that he could hide his sexcapades.
He would ask me what I still believe, and I would tell him. And my dad, he's also getting really old and a little senile, and he would repeat some things to me, and I would repeat things back that I've already told him, and he would get upset again and just be so rude. And
I swear he's forgetting your conversations.
Yeah, some of the conversations, I think so. It finally got so bad that last week I had to block my dad because he was overstepping boundaries and he was being very hurtful, and I was being very kind in the things that I was saying, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I told him that if he didn't leave me alone, I was going to have to block him, and he wouldn't leave me alone, so I had to block my dad.
She basically said, if you've seen the show The Good Place, it's on Netflix, ya basic, ya blocked.
Yeah, so I sent that to my dad, which was...
She did the GIF, ya basic, from there. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I found the gift, and then I, said, ya blocked afterwards. It was funny, but it was wasted on my dad, because I'm pretty sure he did not get it. But
yeah, I don't think he got it all, but he knew he was blocked.
It was childish, but I felt better. But I was being really good up until that point, because I lost it.
That was hilarious.
I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. One of my sisters has... left the church as well with her husband and her family, and so they're in the same boat as us, and it's nice to have someone who understands everything that you're going through. But my other 2 sisters and my younger brother pretty much have been shunning me for 2 months now, and I finally talked to my oldest sister today. She sent me this letter that didn't really make much sense, and we were just going back and forth, and things were a little rocky, and it got to the point where I also told her, I was like, because she won't let me call her. Like, she won't call me either. Every time I call her, it just goes straight to voicemail. And I just want to talk to her, and so I haven't talked to 2 of my sisters and my brother for about 2 months because they won't talk to me. They decided to listen to everything that my dad was telling them because he had talked to them about things that I had talked to him about, and they didn't like it, and then they wouldn't talk to me about it. Anyways, it's just this whole circle of drama, and they decided to take my dad's word for things and not me. And so now they don't want to have anything to do with me because I'm leaving the church.
They're pretty much practicing the Jehovah's Witness shunning.
Yeah, pretty much they're shunning me.
Full shun.
And they won't even like talk to me or give me the time of day. And it's really hard because I would love to just have a conversation with them. I would love to be able to give them my reasons for leaving the church and my point of view of everything, not my dad's, but they won't let me, and I really wish they would. But at least I have...
Super unhealthy, too. It's very abusive on you. I'm sorry.
And just the whole thing with my mom, too, and her mental illness. A lot of us are taking it really hard. So pretty much my family's very messed up. I have had a very interesting growing up, and yeah, life is kind of crazy.
In a nutshell, we're the Harmons. We're ex-Mormon now. Our records have been removed. We hope you've enjoyed this video. We hope that it's helped you get to know us. And we're not really going to involve our kids unless it's like a family vlog.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep it to Miriam and I talking about ex-Mormon things. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more from us, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. We've started a Patreon. If you'd like to go to Patreon and support us, you'll find a link to that in the description. I do video production. Miriam, she works for the public school system as a teacher's aide. We're just a family of 5 trying to get through this whole COVID thing. I'm currently on a leave of absence from work. She can't go back to work until the school year starts. So that's kind of where we're at. But thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.